The views expressed on Teachavision are those of the interviewee and interviewer and do not represent Screenless Allies as a whole. Each sold separately, batteries not included, a dose assembly required, and other disclaimers on television you've heard all the time apply here as well. Hello there, and welcome to Teachavision, episode number 29, where everyone has a different vision of learning. My name is Jose Briseño, and today we're going to start a new interview, but this time we're going to look at somebody who started from the bottom, and now they're here. I mean, somebody who started from the very bottom as someone who's totally blind, who started in public school, then went to college, and built herself up to working for a company called Dell, if anyone's ever heard of it. And that young lady's name is Alyssa Minwell. On this first part, we're going to talk to her about what her life was as a kid and how it was in public school, along with a couple of stories that are a little embarrassing to tell about me. And we talk about old technology. This interview honestly turned more into a conversation more than asking questions, but we do hope that you enjoy it anyway. But first, it's time for your Teachavision Tech Tip, where we make your technology life a little bit easier by giving you a hint or tip on how to use it. Whether it's computers, whether it's mobile devices, we have it all right here on the Teachavision Tech Tip on Teachavision by Screenless Allies. Did you know that smartphones come out of the box accessible for people who are totally blind? They do. On iOS, the name of the screen reader is VoiceOver, and on Android, the name of the screen reader is TalkBack. You can enable these screen readers under the respective accessibility settings. You find these accessibility options under the Settings app on your phone. On iPhone, if you're running iOS 12 or below, you will need to find accessibility under General. If you have Android, some phones will put the accessibility options under Device. But once you turn these screen readers on, you can then assign a shortcut to be able to turn them on from wherever, and you can manipulate the touchscreen without any hassle. As long as these screen readers are on, a blind person can operate your phone. We hope this tip was useful to you, and now, on with the show. Miss Alyssa, thank you so much for being here on Teachavision. Welcome to the podcast, and looking forward to chatting with you today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, let's start off with the basics. So, if anyone ever asked you, who is Alyssa Minwell? Like, what would you tell them? What are your hobbies? Do you have any interests, favorite foods, etc., etc.?
My name is Alyssa, and my hobbies are I love to play the piano, and I have a hobby/business of making jewelry. And those are what I do in my fun time, as well as hanging out with the guide dog. Those are pretty much what I would say sums me up. Yeah, and it obviously works, but yeah.
Right. Any favorite foods?
Oh, goodness. I can't think of any favorite foods. I know it sounds childish, but I love macaroni and cheese.
That is
Italian kind of food.
That is the college kid's best friend, okay? Macaroni and cheese, ramen noodles. That's the good stuff right there. Vegetables. How about vegetables?
I love carrots. As far as vegetables go, I love carrots. Those are my favorite.
Well, that makes sense. Yeah, vegetables have not ever been my thing, but everyone has their own likes and interests.
Well, no, I mean, I would not say veggies are my number one, but yeah, they're good.
Right, they're kind of on the list of if I really have to, then I'll eat them. Kind of
That's right, exactly.
Right. So one thing that I am curious about, so you are totally blind, correct?
That's right. I am completely blind, 100%.
All right. So tell me a little bit about your blindness. Can you tell me if you were born totally blind, if you lost your vision later in life, if you don't mind me asking?
So I lost my sight just before I turned 3. I lost my sight from brain cancer. I was diagnosed with a brain tumor when I was 2 years old and had an 8-hour surgery and came out of it, unfortunately, completely blind. So I've been blind since just before I turned 3.
Gotcha. So do you have any kind of recollection of, like, if you've seen anything before? Okay. So
I don't. No, I wish I could tell you something more exciting than that, but I really don't remember. People ask me all the time, and I don't remember anything, even though I lost it, well into childhood, so to speak. I don't remember anything, which I think is a blessing in a way. So you don't miss what you never had, so to speak.
Agreed. Definitely agreed for sure. So at this point, what was your childhood like in general, like around the home? Was it different for you when you lost your vision, or was it the same of, I still ran and, played with dogs and threw rocks and all that good stuff?
So I grew up in a city that had a wonderful school system. And so I went all throughout public school throughout my entire life. And my parents wanted to make sure that I had a very normal, so to speak, childhood. So yeah, I mean, learned how to play the piano right when I lost my sight. I also learned how to tap dance when I was little.
Ooh,
And
that I
yeah, I
did
mean, I
not
had
know.
yeah, that's pretty cool. It was fun. Yeah. I don't remember any of it really, but
Oh, okay.
but but yeah, so I had a very normal childhood. My siblings very much treated me like just another kid. They would, walk me into walls just because they'd forget, which I think is a good thing. And yeah, I mean, I had a very normal childhood. We would, play with the kids on the street and, on our block. And yeah, it was great.
You definitely had a
And
very fun
yeah,
childhood from what I'm hearing right now.
oh yeah, very normal.
That's awesome. That is definitely pretty cool. Now, you mentioned you were in public school. So what was your public school life like? Were you able to socialize with your peers? Were you able to do anything like that? Or did they look at you and go, oh my God, why?
My public school in the beginning, it was great. In elementary school, when kids didn't know any different, it was wonderful. I had friends and it was great. But as I got older, especially in fourth and fifth grade and then the higher grades, it was, not cool to be seen with the blind girl kind of a thing. And unfortunately, as far as the social life, towards the end of public school and frankly, well into college, I struggled finding friends. Not because I had a problem with it, but because, nobody really wanted to be seen with, let's say, the special kid, so to speak, at the school.
Well, that makes sense. I think that's mostly on a lot of public schools. Now, there's some that, are accepting, but I know others, like what you mentioned, for sure. I was kind of in that same way of when I was younger, I was in that same way, in regards to like having friends. And then I got older and then I was like, well, there went all that idea. And so, yeah, I was also in public school and it was definitely interesting in that situation. Now, we're going to have a little bit of a discussion here because the next thing that I'm curious about, you definitely had a successful public school life. Tell us about the technology that you used in that public school setting. Now, I do want to say, guys, before we go any further, Alyssa and I are close in age. So we both used almost practically the same things as kids. Back when we were kids, we had all this technology and it was not as... It's way different nowadays than when we were younger. So tell us some of the technology that you used that was very beneficial to you.
Yeah, so oh my gosh, technology had to happen when I was in school. I had to have the technology. And it's amazing about how, the change in technology evolved. But first I started out on a Perkins Braille writer. For those that don't know it, it's a big 10-pound clunky typewriter, for lack of a better word. But I did start out on that and had to learn how to read and write Braille using that first. But when I got old enough, responsible enough, I transferred into, at the time it was called a Braille and Speak, which was, very much an old piece of technology now. And then eventually moved off into the humanware Braille note takers of all, gosh, what, four generations? 3 or 4 generations of them.
Yeah, because we had I do want to intervene for 2 seconds and say, for the Perkins, you remember when we had to actually carry that darn thing from class to class along with our textbooks as well?
Oh my gosh.
And
thankfully...
Our back.
Thankfully in my elementary school, I only had one class. I didn't have multiple teachers, thankfully. And so I would just keep the Braille writer in the classroom and didn't have to carry it far. I mean, I would have to carry it from desk to desk, but then I had a Braille writer at home, which was nice. So I didn't have to carry it as much as some others would have had to. But man, when I had to.
Oh, I had to in high school. I had to in high school. It was.
Oh, gosh.
Because we use that for math because technology isn't up to date on math. So.
You're right, though. I forgot about math.
I had to carry.
But you know what? You know what? I had a Perkins Braille writer, and you just reminded me. I had a Perkins Braille writer in my math class. And then, I would have the one at home. So thankfully, I had one.
Yeah, you did, but I only had one Perkins Braille writer, and we had to switch classes in high school. So it was my back. Let me tell you, we had that for math.
God.
And not only that, but actually my teachers, because they knew I hated that Braille writer. So they used it as punishment for me. They would always say, yeah, they would always literally tell. So instead of a detention or ISS, like you would expect in a regular public school, because at one point, okay, guys, so this is a story that I've never told. Yeah. So remember, when you're a teenager, you think you can get away with, cheating on spelling exams and things like that. Well, I tried. See, the Braille note that Alyssa was talking about had spell checker, and I would always make sure that at the end of the spelling tests, I spell checked everything and made sure that that was correct. The problem is my teachers picked up that I kept making hundreds. So they were like,
no.
I don't know how they came to this conclusion of, he's making hundreds. This is a bit of a problem because most kids probably don't make hundreds, which makes sense. So then they decided, okay, let's put you on a Perkins and let's see if you make 100, if you're like really studying or if something's going wrong. Well, that was unexpected for me because they didn't tell me, you're making hundreds on this. No, they just told me, all right, let's take a spelling test, but we're going to do it on the Perkins.
Oh, no.
Well, yeah, because I got a 70 on that test. I took it the day before on the Braille note. I got 100, and then that same day I got a 70.
Wow.
So from then on, for a whole year, that was in middle school, they had me use the Perkins on any kind of spelling test. And I remember that was very horrible punishment for me. I hated it because I'm so spoiled by the note taker. And so later on, they were like, okay, you know what? Forget detention ISS for any kind of like cheating punishment. We know exactly what to do. And so they did the Perkins. And for some reason, I didn't learn the next year because then we did the famous vocabulary words. And we had to write those. We had to write those 5 times each. Well, sometimes you get a little tired of writing the same thing over and over. And, we have a copy and paste feature that we can use. The problem is sometimes you have to look out for what exactly you're copying and pasting because it could be a different word than what you wrote the first time. And so I didn't realize that until the same teacher called me out on it. And, well, I had to go back to the Perkins again. So there you go, guys. Teachavision presents Jose's embarrassing story times from when he was a middle school teacher. Yes, so
that's awesome.
That was punishment for me. I was like, so, but, I did go through the Braille generations. Yeah, we both went through all 4. We had the old classic with no USB ports. It only had 15 megabytes of memory.
And it had the serial adapter and the parallel port.
And the compact flash card that we could never find because they were like, what's a compact flash card? And we're just trying to explain what exactly it is. So that was a lot of fun. Oh, and the PCM CIA card as well on the right hand side.
Yay.
And then we moved up to the Empower, and that was even more powerful. It had USB support. It was getting a little better.
Actually.
128 megabytes of memory, so we got a little bit up there, And then we had the Braille Apex in high school is when we started using that, and that was the best thing ever.
Nice. Yes.
We were talking off air, and to this day, we still think that is the best note taker that HumanWare came out with.
Yes,
so,
the Apex is by far awesome. I was going to say the awesomest, but it was small, thin, light, and fast, and easy, and was just, it was my all-time favorite.
It was, and of course, I actually have not seen the 4th model. Alyssa has seen it, and from what I'm hearing, I'm not liking, and we've spoken about this on previous podcast episodes, the Braille Note Touch, where everyone that I've heard agrees that HumanWare should have just stopped after the Apex on these developments of the note takers.
Yeah, well, and I think the touch, one of the challenges with it is if you use it in the traditional manner that we would use it with, the Perkins style writer and things like that, our keyboard, I should say, one of the challenges that I find is that when you have all of that together, it's a bit heavy. That's the big thing. And then also it just seems to be slower. It seems to be quite a bit slower. And for me, I'm not a student and I'm not in the classroom and don't have to deal with what students are, working on and maybe trying to be quieter or what have you. But, for work or what have you, the touch, I never used just the touch screen. And so when I would use it, you're forced to use this big, heavy, extra add-on on there. And it's just, I don't know. It definitely is something that I think Humanware could have stopped. The Apex was fantastic. Just upgrade the software.
Yeah,
I love the Apex.
I agree with that, and I definitely still love it to this day. Hopefully, we can get one for collection. So if any of you listeners have any kind of like Apex collections or whatever that you're just giving away,
right.
Get in contact with us.
Or an Empower. I'd love to see an Empower again.
Oh, the Empower. Or a classic. You know what? I wouldn't mind having all 3 of those models.
I would love that.
Just for showcase. You know?
Just to have all the models. Just for show. Even if they don't work.
Yeah,
just to have the shelf.
Yeah, just for the shelf, for sure. So, we're looking at all the technology. So it looks like you definitely survived with all the technology you had in the school system, because you definitely went from one to another, and your school system made sure that you were upgraded well on note-taking and typing things. And, of course, digital talking book players like the Victor Reader series.
The Victor, that's right,
Victor, yeah. And we were, we had the heavy edition, the classics. Yeah, we had that one was a little heavy for us to carry, but we had to, and it had, each book had 2-3 CDs, and you had to.
But again, we're complaining over 2 or 3 CDs when a Braille book was 2 or 3 bookcases full. So,
It's like, all right, Alyssa, I got your Harry Potter book ready. Why is it in 8 books? Oh, because that's the whole book.
That's right.
Oh, I remember those days. Oh, jeez. But yeah, that's true though. And and of course, then that went to a Discman format of the Victor as well later on, and that was actually pretty cool. Actually, the Discman. Oh, I remember just in general, like looking like a Discman that talked was like the best thing ever.
Yes, that was pretty cool.
And I actually.
And
actually listened to commercial regular music on that thing too. I remember.
Yes, that's right. It did, didn't it? Yes. Oh my gosh.
It played music, and I was just like, sweet, I can actually play music on this thing.
Yes, I forgot about that.
Yes, you can play music. You definitely can play music on that thing. So, and then of course we got a little tinier. As time went by, they just got smaller.
Yeah, now you've got I don't know if it's the current Victor, but the last one that I held was the size of a large cell phone. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was the Stream.
That's the last one that I held.
Yeah, that was the first.
The Stream, yeah, the Stream, yeah.
And now they have a newer one. So.
I haven't played with a Victor in a hot minute, but sadly I just use my cell phone now if I need to listen to anything. But yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's true.
Technology. It's so fun to look at the evolution of it.
It is. I would love to want to just have a big room with assistive technology in it and just like look at the history of it. New. Yeah, old and new. Yeah. And then we can tell our grandkids, right? It's like, look, we didn't have them robots when we were kids. You got all them robots cooking and cleaning for you. Right? You realize, look, I'm going to show you something. Come into this room. So it's definitely
a museum.
It's definitely evolved so much, and looking forward to seeing, especially for the blindness side of things, and like with these TBIs that we interview on this podcast, is what technology is going to bring to us. It's going to be great. Yeah. For sure.
It's awesome.
It's going to be awesome. So you definitely survived. The school system definitely made sure you did that. Thank you for joining us for this edition of Teachavision by Screenless Allies. We'll see you on the next one. Meanwhile, you can check out our website at screenlessallies.com. SCREENLESSALLIES.com. Check out our Facebook, facebook.com/ScreenlessAlliesOfficial. And most importantly, please tell your friends about us. And if you have any suggestions or comments or questions, you can definitely email those to info@screenlessallies.com. We'll see you next time, and thank you for listening.